It's a great story from the Bible. It starts out in the first sentence, and it says that Jesus took Peter, James, and John and went up a mountain to pray. Well, you know anything about the Bible, you know, whoa, get ready. In that one sentence, we've named mountains, holy sites in ancient Israel, prayer, intimacy with the divine, and then Peter, James, and John, sort of the inner cabinet of the disciples. That one sentence tells you something is up in the story. And my gosh, it is. Something remarkable happened. They use language like clothes became dazzling. The vision included it was like we had an actual conversation, Moses and Elijah there, and a cloud. Well, clouds throughout the Hebrew scriptures. The cloud, like at the Jesus baptism, in fact, the words are the same. It said, listen, this is a chosen one, listen up. Same language remembered from the baptism. And the disciples wanted to hang on to the moment. They didn't want to go away. So Peter said, got an idea. Jesus, let's make a monument here. Three, actually. One for you, Elijah, and Moses, and it was a bad idea. Scripture is kind. It says he didn't know what he was saying. And then it ends. You know, when we talk about unusual, bizarre experience of the divine, it gets very tricky. The last line for me is the most believable, easiest for me to comprehend. And they kept silent. And in those days, told no one of anything they had seen. I can relate to that. I mean, if that happened to you, would you tell anybody? Somebody would say, what have you been smoking? Are you a holy roller? Just what are you talking about? Dreams and visions and voices. True for us today. And yet, I can't count the number of times when I've been in a small group of people who trust each other and someone says something like this. Well, I've never really told anybody, but... And then they explain a moment that took their breath away. Or a vision. Or a dream. Or a time when they were so overwhelmed that they, in some cases, literally kind of fell to the ground. And it's always prefaced, I haven't told many because there's the apprehension of course, you could be misunderstood. And how do you put it into words? And nobody wants to sound like a holy roller or better than thou. But yet, when that story is told, oftentimes the next one is, permission is given. And the next person says, well, I haven't either, but I experienced this. And a story comes out. And then the next story comes out. And then we find out we're all weird. All of us have had strange experiences that are hard to put into words. And then in faith, we understand that many of these can be called holy, encounter, mystery, wonder. I love this line from the Orthodox theologian Kallistos Ware. I snuck it in the end of a newsletter, so all you faithful readers will have heard this before. It's a great line. It goes like this. It is not the task of Christianity to provide easy answers to every question, but to make us progressively aware of a mystery. God is not so much the object of our knowledge as the cause of our wonder. Great summary. It is not the task of Christianity to provide easy answers to every question, but to make us progressively aware of a mystery. See, mystery is not a problem to solve. It is a gift to embrace. In fact, as one dwells within mystery, it doesn't get smaller as if we understand it. It gets bigger. We don't solve mystery. We dwell within it. Now, like many, I'm often quite shy to share my personal experiences of the holy because, well, they might sound weird. And I certainly don't want to come off as holier than thou. We don't want any bragging or competitive experiences of the divine. But what that means is that often we're corporately shy to express the profound things going on in our midst. And also, I think many of us fear that we will cheapen the experience by limiting it with words. But words and music and art, that's the tools that we've got, the best that we can do. So, here's one. Possibly because of my early study in anthropology, I think a fair amount about evolution. Yes, I confess my weirdness in that. I'm often overwhelmed when I think about the billions of years of life and the remarkable flow of evolution. Just imagine this for a moment. Everything that we know that exists is a product of the Big Bang some 13.7 billion years ago. Everything. Scientists theorize that if the Big Bang was just a fraction stronger, all of that matter would have just been splattered and continuing out forever into the universe, never coming together to form what we know as planets and galaxies. And if the Big Bang was just a bit weaker, all of that matter would have collapsed back in on itself. But here we are. Galaxies beyond numbering, planets going around the suns, life emerging. John Philip Newell has that great line that our Earth has been going around our sun for about 4.5 billion years. Consider that a long-term love affair. And then life emerging out of the oceans, single cell and algae, and then crawling up on land and plants, and all of the animals and human life that can reason and imagine, to love and be loved. All that process as the poets in Genesis describe. The fact that we exist is way beyond my ability to take in. A miracle that I cannot comprehend. Now, I don't necessarily expect that you would share my fascination and belief that contemplating evolution is a holy moment. I'll own up to my own weirdness. But I do imagine that you have your experiences of wonder and awe, of mystery, that defy words and are even beyond the best of your imagination. The psalmist often describes that we are wonderfully and fearfully made. I believe that. I've experienced that. I remember as a child, there in my bedroom at 226 East Norman Drive, Palatine, Illinois, staring out my window, trying to imagine the distance and number of stars and how small I was. And my skin would crawl, and I was spooked, and I was scared at times. Time still haunts me. We are wonderfully and fearfully made, said the psalmist. I know that. Well, for all who have been around the church for a few decades, I imagine you've heard some sermons from the Transfiguration that focused on the warning, do not build monuments. And it's an appropriate interpretation of the passage. It makes a lot of sense. We tend to want to build monuments as soon as we land on something. And for Protestants, it's the monument of religious dogma. The warning of the Transfiguration is quite appropriate. But today, I invite you to welcome the story of the Transfiguration as an invitation to dwell within the place of mystery and to embrace the wonder in your life. Now, if you're feeling a bit detached anywhere but a wonderful place, try a long walk on the beach. Or come and visit our Shaw Chapel for an hour and sit there in the semi-dark with the light that streams down on the Celtic cross and spend an hour in contemplation. If your spirit seems a bit deadened these days, I encourage you to try out the exhibit entitled Wonder at the Renwick Museum in D.C. It's a grand display that lifts the soul and invites imagination. I felt quite a bit lighter standing in the midst of these wonderfully large sculptures that you can walk in and out of, made out of thousands of tree saplings. And then it was, my imagination floated as I laid on the floor. They provide pillows, so you can look up at the ceiling, and that sculpture is all fish nets of different colors that move gently with the air in the room. And then my spirit was really lightened up and buoyed by the fact that I was listening to all these children giggling as they took it all in. Abraham Heschel, one of the great wise ones, reminds us that awe is the beginning of wisdom, and praise precedes faith. So getting back to the basics is not retrenchment into rigid dogma, for the true basics of faith is wonder and gratitude. On Friday night, Debbie invited all the new officers, and the continuing officers as well, to bring something to show how you are connected to God. That was the extent of the instructions. Bring something that connects you to God. And we make that as an offering and as a way to introduce ourselves to each other. And presented in the middle of the room, there were a variety of pictures of people and places, and a number have said, this particular family member or this birth of a child is a close connection. Variety of pictures. There were Bibles. We had some stones from Iona and some seashells off of the Chesapeake Bay. And I brought my shoes. These are my trekking shoes. These are the ones that, for me, walking, and then particularly strenuous walking, gets me into that place where I can start to think and meditate and be open. So just the act of walking is good for me. Also, these shoes have taken me to places like Ghost Ranch and around Rome. and climbing up into the hills of Haiti, where we help plant trees and restore life. Holy moments. Friends, God has blessed you. You have moments of mystery, of wonder. You have moments that are just odd and strange. Welcome them. Run with them.